Rain may glisten, but still I listen for hours and hours. I'm just a kid again, doing what I did again, singing a song. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
Hello and welcome to the latest Red Robin Podcast Weekly, which is powered by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Auto Centre. From 6 wins on the bounce to an alarming 3 losses in a row, Rovers are in a rut, and the finger is being pointed firmly at the departing Tony Smith. But surely it can't all be the coach's fault, can it? For this week's podcast, I'm delighted to be joined by podcast regulars 𝗔𝗰𝗰𝗍𝗶, Karl Smith and Keith Pollard. With our disappointing defeat to Castleford and our upcoming game against Catalan, the focus on attention. Now, we were supposed to be joined by Barry Toohey from the Newcastle Herald, who was going to be joining us live from Australia, give us a heads up on Willie Peters. Unfortunately, he has got flu, so he's hoping to join us on another podcast soon. But we've got a stand-in. He's not coming from Australia. I think he's going to stand in from East Hull. Dan Craft, how are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, not so bad, mate. You?
Yeah, good, mate. I know you spoke to me at the Leeds game. You was furious and you couldn't wait to get on the podcast. So I can't wait to hear what you got to say tonight. But thanks for joining us for the very first time. I don't know what's happened with some people on YouTube because I've seen comments saying, is the podcast coming on yet? So whether it's whether the timing or scheduling's been wrong. But if you're listening to it on podcasts, I know you won't give a toss because you're listening to it in the comfort of your car or living room or whatever you might be doing. So let's crack on. Keith, I'll start with you, mate. Leeds away, Huddersfield in the Challenge Cup semi-final, and then Castleford on Sunday. Which one was the worst performance for you?
Personally, I thought I didn't see the Cas game. I was at Headingley for the Cup semi-final, and I think that was the worst for me. I mean, as an ex-player, to play in a cup semi-final. Well, Wayne Parker summed it up on the bus coming back with the ex-players, but he said I'd have died to play in a Challenge Cup final. Yeah. No, I've been, the last few days, I've been having chat with people on Facebook about the way the players played, and they seem to think they don't care and all this rubbish to me. But there's something wrong somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, and we'll go on to that later on, Keith, because we've got...
You know, to play in a semi-final, at half-time, I still thought they could have won. You know,
yeah, it was only 12-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, Huddersfield weren't that good, but we was just bad. I mean, we've gone over the last 4 or 5 games, we've just gone downhill. And, yeah, it's I thought it was terrible. I mean, they went to Toulouse at half-time. There was crap. Tony Smith gave them a rollicking, and they came good. Just to beat Toulouse, you know what I mean? But to play in a semi-final like that, yeah,
very disappointing. So let's kick off with the Castleford game, and Rovers lined up like this. We had Lachlan Coote at fullback, Ethan Ryan and Ben Crooks on the right, Sean Kenny-Dowell and Ryan Hall on the left. Rowan Milnes was partnered at halfback by the returning Brad Takarangi, with Will Matty Parcell, George King, Louis Johnson, Jimmy Kynors and Dean Hadley making the rest of the 13. On the bench, we had Matty Staunton, Jez Litton, Corbin Sims and Greg Richards. And Rovers fell to a disappointing defeat at the Mendehoes Jungle, with the Tigers running in 6 unanswered tries, a result which saw Castleford overtake the Robins and move up to 6th in the Super League table. Former Robin George Griffin was the first to crash over for the Tigers on the back of weak Rovers defence, although the Robins did get a chance to respond, with Liam Watts being sin-binned for a horrible crusher tackle style on Dean Hadley, a tackle which resulted in Hadley having to leave the field injured. Coote was held up over the line though, and that was probably as good as it got for the Robins, with Castleford going on to score 3 tries in just 10 minutes. Any hope of a Rovers comeback in the second half was quickly snuffed out on minute 47 when 𝗔𝗰𝗍𝗶𝗍𝗍 intercepted a Rowan Milnes pass to race 90 metres. And the returning Brad Takarangi pulled up with a hamstring injury in the ensuing chase, which meant he was out of the game. And we'll come on to that later on, with things going from bad to worse, with Castleford adding another try after yet more disappointing Rovers defence. The result means Rovers have scored just 4 points in over 200 minutes, 40 minutes of rugby league, with the Robins once again showing minimal intent with the ball in hand and lacklustre defence. Joe, you was there, mate. What did you make of the game?
Against Cass?
Yeah.
I didn't end up going against Cass. I did tweet. I was going to...
You've killed me there, John. Yeah, you've absolutely killed me.
I've ruined you. No, I was going to take the wife and kids, but then when I seen it was £16 per child to go, I was just like, I couldn't pay it. I have tried to watch it back on OKR TV, but I just can't do it to myself.
Yeah,
I think I got 3 Castleford scores in and then just gave up.
Yeah, and it is an interesting point there about ticket prices, because obviously it is supposed to be a family game. I know for a fact you definitely went, Karl. So what did you make of the game?
I thought all in all it was the standard of the game wasn't very high. I didn't think Castle's obviously there was 30 odd points better than us, but in terms of quality on the field, I didn't think there was that much better than us. What I would say is the first 15 minutes, both teams were making a lot of errors. And I thought to myself at that time, whoever takes the game by the scruff of the neck and actually complete some sets and get some field position will go on to win the game. And ultimately, that's what happened. Cass was just that bit better in the end. I think Rovers are just struggling in the forwards myself, and we're obviously down on confidence as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that, isn't it, Dan? Because obviously we've seen a few injuries to players, and Rovers having to sort of patch up where they can. 𝗔𝗵𝗿𝗄𝐿 coming into the second row. Louis Johnson obviously returning against Cass after injury. Matty Staunton, 𝐁𝐮𝐿𝐭 are having to do big minutes. And are we expecting too much from the likes of Matty Staunton and 𝐁𝐿𝐭? Because they've been almost ever present this season, haven't they?
Yeah, I'd say that 𝐁𝐿𝐭, he has put in massive minutes this season. Matty Staunton's another one he's missed a couple, hasn't he? But I think I do agree. We are quite light in the forwards at the minute through injuries. It obviously didn't help with Dean Hadley having to go off. Karl does fit in well in the second row, though, I do feel.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, haven't we? We saw it against Huddersfield when 𝐁𝐮𝐿𝐭 had to go off early. Similar with Dean Hadley. It does have a massive impact being down an interchange, doesn't it? Especially when you've got, for instance, Greg Richards on the bench. You've got Corbin Sims, who's many people, I think the jury's still out on him.
Well, I think he's been, what I've seen of him, he's been our best forward.
Really? You reckon, Keith? You reckon Corbin Sims has been our best forward?
To me, he don't get enough game time, and for his defence. And honestly, as an ex-prop, I think he's been duly, how can I put it? Duly badly criticised. That's my opinion.
What do you see Corbin Sims' strengths as, Keith? What do you think he's bringing to the team?
He's a head banger, and he's had to calm his game down a bit because of the rulings. But his defence has been brilliant, I think. And he didn't get enough game time. That's my opinion. He was like Mussey. When Mussey was here, he never got enough game time for me. He's on 10 minutes, then off, and then it's these machines they have on the back, and it tells them that it tells them that they're knackered, right? So they've got to bring them off, and they just don't get enough. I mean, it's gone on for years. The supporters rubbishing players, and the players don't come here to, want of a better word, toss it off. You know what I mean? It's not built into them, especially the Aussies. The will to win is unbelievable. They started the positive thinking thing, came from America, but their whole will to win thing, even as kids, if they don't want to win, they shouldn't be playing, and that's the thing. I just don't bear all this rubbishing about players that some of these supporters come up with, and that's as I say, as an ex-player. Yeah. Apparently there was somebody shouting at him off the stand. Somebody was telling me the other day that he was more or less bawling in his ear that he was garbage and shit and go back to Australia and all that. That's the last thing you want to hear. If you was at work doing your job and there's a bloke screaming in your ear hole, how would you feel? You know what I mean? Yeah. They're only human at the end of the day.
Yeah, but obviously there is something wrong with inside. I mean, Rovers have shipped 69 points in the last 3 defeats against Castleford. They missed 32 tackles, which obviously gave Castleford an easy route into the game. And for me, what really stood out was some of the individual errors for the tries. I mean, for the first try, I saw 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 race out from under the sticks. He misses the tackle. that which leaves Maher and King having to scramble across to make a tackle. The second try, Ben Crooks runs out. He slips over, doesn't leave Louis Johnson any time to get over and cover. Kenny Edwards goes in for an easy run-in. The third try sees Ryan Hall in no man's land. Darryl Alferts goes with plenty of space to run into. The fifth try, Rowan Milnes throws a lazy pass out wide, which 𝗔𝗵𝗿𝗍𝐿 easily intercepts. Sixth try sees Cass create an easy overlap and they go in for an easy score again. And collectively, I just don't think we're at the races, Joe, with our defence. And I think there's maybe something Tony Smith alluded to, didn't he, that too many players are maybe trying to do things on their own and then we're going away from the game plan.
Yeah, I think I saw the first try, the George Griffin one, and that's, for me, Lachlan Coote, very lazy effort, to be honest. But
should he even be there, Joe? Should he even be defending there?
Not really, no. I also think for George Griffin, who's not the biggest prop in the world, to be able to carry Will Maher and Dean Adley on his back over the line, I think that's pretty poor effort as well by Maher and Adley, to be honest, especially like close to the line. But yeah, I don't know. It's just at the beginning of the year when we started to win a few games, our defence was so improved. Like the intensity to defend our line when the teams was on our line was something I haven't seen from a Rovers team for a few years. But just at the minute, we seem to be going back to our old ways a bit, don't we?
Yeah, there's definitely some bad habits creeping back into the side, aren't they, Dan? And
I think a lot of it is the fact that the players that are missing, right, as well. When you think you've got Garrett's missing, 𝗓𝗍𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴's missing, Lynette's missing, Frankie Alton's missing, you've nearly a full pack missing, haven't you?
But don't you think, Dan, that this is probably one of the strongest Rovers squads we've had for a number of years, and some of the players who are coming in just don't seem to be.
The injuries,
I think it goes back to the depth, doesn't it? The depth of the squad. Like obviously, we're missing Garrett, as you mentioned. It's worrying that they're not, when they're giving out this injury update every week. Garrett's not on there. That's worrying for me. Is it another Heffernan we've got on our hands? That's a worry for me. Go back to what Keith said though about Corbin Sims. I'm the first one to criticise him this season. It's easy when you've been criticising somebody all season when they've been playing poorly. When the first thing they do in a game, drop the ball, say for instance, it's easy to criticise them. But when they have a good game, you do have to big them up. And Corbin Sims probably had one of his better games in a Rovers shirt against Cass. But going back to the defence as well, it's shocking at the minute, and that's something that we had quite a strong foundation on at the beginning of the season. We're scoring points and not shipping that many in, but some of these tries it's scary how soft they are. Especially like as you mentioned, that Will Maher and George King, the defence on George Griffin, it's scary really. A big lad like Will Maher gets carried all that way.
Yeah, and I think one of the features at the start of the season, well, not the start of the season, but once we went through a good run of games, was that our scrambling defence seems to be able to cope with maybe players being out of position, etc. But Karl, the defence at the moment is definitely left wanting. What do you make of that right edge at the moment with Ethan Ryan and Ben Crooks out there?
It's one of them, isn't it? That problem's always been there, regardless of who's played on that right side. Even last year when we was winning games, when we got to the semi-final, we still, if a team was going to beat us, there was going to come down that side, wasn't there? It was never going to come down,
It's naturally that people pass. Your right edge is always the side that gets the most work in defence because everybody passes right to left.
Yeah, it's the strongest side, Keith. I get that. I get what you're saying.
Most people are right-handed, so they pass that way. So most of the attacks go to the right-hand side. Now, when I played, you lose forward, always defended on your right side to make the numbers up, right? This was before sliding defences and all this shit they brought in. I mean, all you got to do is tackle, right? You got to number up and tackle. That's as simple as black and white. But they've made a science out of it. They've made a science out of defence. It really.
I get that.
I know I'm a dinosaur, and it's not the same game as what I played when I first started playing. But it's simple. You run, you pass, you tackle, you back up. There's no science to it. You've got an opposite number, you take him. right? And if you're going to defend, you move across. You fill gaps in.
So do you think, Keith, do you think it comes down to desire then? Do you think, it's a simple game? Do you think the desire's not there to do it?
That's all it is. It's just bad play. They're overcoached, right? Half of the players nowadays are overcoached. And they've made a science out of an easy game. But every time we used to have, you lose forward, always went to the right, always moved in, you moved across. You'd have your winger, your centre, and then you lose forward. But they don't cover tackle anymore. It's this sliding garbage. You know what I mean? And if you're sliding, somebody come back on the angle and they'll cut you to shreds because you're going that way. I don't know.
The problem is the game's changed a lot now, Keith, from your day, hasn't it? So every team's the same. Every team plays in that defensive shape. Whether it's St Helens who are top of the league or Toulouse, Wakefield, us who are bottom of the league. So I get what you're saying and I get your point, but it's moving forward. You've got to come up with something to counteract that, haven't you? And I think I'm not a stats man, but I think if you look at the individual mistakes, I'd imagine off the top of my head, them individual mistakes that cost us tries come down that side. And I think that's what Chris is sort of referring to, rather than the team defending.
It's done that since Chris Wellham was here. Chris Wellham used to shoot the line. And he just couldn't get out of it. Every team he's ever played with, he shoots the line. You shoot the line and you're just leaving a gap, aren't you? You go up and there's a gap either side of you.
Yeah. And the one thing that...
It's common sense, you don't do it.
One thing that's become apparent, Keith, is that when the opposition do make a break, there's a distinct lack of pace in the team and we're not able to recover. We've seen Ethan Ryan's probably one of our speediest players, Dan, but even he's left looking like running in treacle at times, isn't he? So once a team makes a breakdown, there doesn't seem to be much recovery defence, does there?
Yeah. No, definitely not. And I think your wingers need to have that bit of pace. As Ryan Hall is a battering ram, isn't he? That's what he's good at. That's his strength. He hasn't got the pace he had back in the day. Same as Ryan doesn't have the pace. Well, he should have the pace, but he doesn't. Obviously, the only person really tracking back the other day was Takarangi, and we saw what happened to him when they made a break.
Yeah, and one of the players who probably came out with a little bit of credit on Sunday was 𝐁𝐮𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐿. He was our top meter maker with 203 metres. He had an average game of 13 metres. He made 8 tackle busts. But, for me, Ryan Hall, 𝐁𝐮𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐿, they're always near the top meter makers. But do you think teams have got a bit clever to it now, Joe? Because we seem to see Ryan Hall get the kicks, doesn't he? Gets the kick, runs out, makes us good meters. But we're not seeing him enough closer to their try line, are we? We're seeing him doing a lot of defensive work, but we're not seeing him do the work now where it really counts.
I think that's mainly due to the fact that we're so on the defensive at the minute. I think obviously earlier on in the season he was popping up with a few tries, wasn't he? We was getting him over the line, but the way we are at the moment, it's just so easy for teams to roll us up the other end, and he's having to do the donkey work for us. But I think you are right. I think teams are getting a bit savvy to it, and I think quite a lot of it as well. They're giving him the extra workload to try and tire him out. Quite a lot of the kicks do go down his side. And I think the more they do it, the more he's going to tire out in here, and he's not going to cause as much damage as he would do.
Yeah. And Karl, one of the biggest worries for me at the moment is our inability to score points. 4 points in 240 minutes of rugby league is pretty embarrassing, really, isn't it? We just seem to lack any creative nous at the moment. And yes, Jordan Abdull's not playing, Mikey Lewis isn't playing, but Roy Milnes at one point when he came back into the side, he looks absolutely fantastic. We've seen obviously Lachlan Coote when he comes into line, he can make things happen. The speed of Matty Parcell from hooker, Jez Litton, but at the moment it's just not clicking for either of them, is it? Karl.
No, to be honest with you, I think that comes down to a bit of field position as well. I know we like to get our backs on the ball and get us out of backfield, but I think sometimes we've got to let the big fellas get you up the field as well. Like Keith said earlier on, in his day it was a simple game, and there's still aspects of the game now that can be simplified as as much as possible. And I just think that without them big props that Keith mentioned that are injured and missing, I think we're struggling to get that field position to get into them positions to score points. And I think that's why you're seeing Ryan Hull, Kenny Dowell deep in their own half throughout. Whereas last season there was, in the right end of the field scoring points, wasn't there? So I think a lot of that's down to field position and confidence.
Yeah, and Tony Smith said it's been 2 or 3 games now where we just haven't been building. I think we're looking for quick fixes rather than going through the processes that are necessary. And he's obviously alluding to the fact that Rovers players are trying to do things that maybe is away from the game plan. Keith, I know you're not Tony Smith's biggest fan. Is he the reason that Rovers are not performing well at the moment?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I might be one of the odd ones that is never. I just don't like the way we play. We're too flat. Nobody runs onto the ball. You don't see 2 forwards running together. The half-back should be backing up the forwards. When was the last time you saw Rovers? It actually happened. I think it was a Wakefield game. If Vetty played that game, but 2 forwards actually passed it one to the other, which they just haven't done. We're just stood too flat. When you see Purcell get the ball and he's running about like a dog, like a chicken with no head, he doesn't know where to go because we're all too flat. They're all up with him, right? Nobody comes from deep. Nobody runs for a gap. They run at a man. They might as well write a yellow strip down the jerseys and run at it like a bleeding homing pigeon. The way we play is shocking, I think. It's all right throwing the ball about, but it's all lateral. You look at Abdul. When he played for London, he used to come from deep. He had blokes running off him. And they beat us twice, and they was bottom of the league. But it's just the way we play. I just don't believe that we're playing as good a rugby or with the players we've got. You said taking it up the middle. If we're a lighter pack, let's move it. Stand deeper and run wider. Have your props running second man out with the second row going off him. We haven't got a second row that can break the line. We haven't got a Phil Lowe or a Paul Rose. And I know I keep going back and you might be pissed off with it, but that's the way you play rugby league. Not the way the Aussies want them to play. Because that's all they're doing. But you'll go and watch the NRL now. When they line out, you watch Melbourne or any of the top teams. They stand deep and they're running onto the ball. If you're running onto the ball, you can see a gap. You know where you're going to go. If you're flat and they're coming up to you, you can't even pick a gap because they're on top of you.
Joe, Keith thinks Hull Kingston Rovers, the style of rugby league Tony Smith plays, he doesn't enjoy it. Many Rovers fans will say it's probably the best rugby league we've seen for a number of years. Do you think it's coming down to fitness now? The reason that maybe the lines are a bit flatter than they might have been? Because for me, I think there's a few players out there who look a little bit beat up at the moment and look like they maybe need a bit of a rest. And, you look at Matty Staunton, 129 metres. He made the most apart from Sean Kenny-Dowell and Ryan Hall. He got through 41 tackles. He was our second most amount of tackles. So there's players out there who are doing big minutes and putting big efforts in, don't they? And at the moment, the rotations don't seem to be helping us out when we're bringing players off the bench.
Was that to me, Chris?
Yeah, that's you, Joe.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I think beginning of the season, I thought there was I thought our right edge was a lot more settled when we had like Frankie Alton, Sam Wood, and Jimmy Carnos. And I think Frankie Alton runs some great lines, and I think 𝐁𝐮𝐿 does as well. To be fair, I just don't think we just don't seem to have any smarts about us at the minute, do we? It's all like, how many times have we thrown the ball into touch in the last couple of weeks, and just daft things like that. And I think we're just missing like a little spark, like what Michael Lewis would bring, like a little maverick. I think that semi-final defeat, that's all it needed, was a bit of magic out of nowhere to really get us going. And I think we are really starting to see how much of a big part of this team Michael Lewis actually is. Because I think everyone thought, it's all right, we've got Abdul and Milnes, but I think even Abdul's not really done much this year, has he? So I think it's starting to show how much we do actually rely on Michael Lewis for a bit of spark to get us going.
Yeah. And there's definitely a spark needed in that team, because at the moment we look as flat as anything, don't we? And one feature is, Karl, that when Rovers go a few points down at the moment, we don't seem to be able to come back from it, do we? And that's like the Rovers of old, where you only had to get a couple of scores up on Rovers and that was almost game over.
Yeah, like I was meant to say earlier, to be honest with you, confidence is everything, isn't it? I mean, when you're up and you're winning games and you're scoring points and everything's free flowing, you'll probably find that lads will run harder, lads will tackle harder, they'll be more desperate in defence. When you haven't got no confidence, you feel like you're the end of the world and nothing's going for you. So that's probably another reason why we are a bit flat. I think confidence is a massive thing in any sport, and even more so in rugby league, because like you say, it can be a very basic sport if you get it right.
Dan, you mentioned Brad Takarangi. He made his first appearance for Rovers since obviously all the court case and all that rubbish, and Tony Smith threw him back into the side, into the halves. Obviously, he pulled up with a hamstring injury, chasing down 𝗔𝗵𝗿𝗍𝗄. It's obviously come out now that he's going to be out for the season. It looks like he's played his last ever game for Hull Kingston Rovers, although that's not yet to be confirmed, although he's out of contract at the season. But do you think Brad Takarangi's been done a bit dirty by Tony Smith? He's pulled up with a hamstring injury. He's not played hardly any games. He played one reserve game against Leeds. I think he's been 18th man. So, an injury like this, was it probably to be expected when someone's been out cold for so long?
Possibly, but at the same time, he's a professional athlete. He should be fit enough to see himself through a game of rugby. I personally would have thrown in a young kid. My feelings on Brad Takarangi and what he did. I know you've been over this in previous episodes of the podcast. I don't think he should have been anywhere near the squad. But yeah, I think it's just one of them freak injuries, isn't it? It could have happened to anybody. You presume he's been training with the squad, keeping fit.
It's not like match practice done.
No, and that's one thing he's been missing. I mean, he's made 22 Super League appearances for Rovers, scored 4 tries in his 5 appearances this season. He scored 2 tries. He made 43 carries, 336 metres. He made 1 clean break, 43 tackles, 7 errors. Joe, are we going to miss Brad Takarangi this season?
No, in a word. To be fair, I thought he showed a couple of decent early glimpses for that inside ball to cut when we got held up over the line against Cass, and a little offload to Louis Johnson as well early doors. But yeah, we just haven't had the value for money from him, have we? I mean, all last season it was few and far between, weren't they? A couple of moments of magic here and there, but for the amount of money he must be on, you could probably get two English boys like Sam Wood, for instance, that can do just as good a job, if not better, personally. And if it was me, I'd be looking at Michael Dobson's situation where you deregister him and try and bring someone over or something like that. But I don't know if that's doable or not these days.
Well, that's it. The club do have a question to answer, don't they? Because he's out of contract at the end of the season. It looks highly unlikely that he'll get offered a new contract because based on his performances so far, you can't say he warrants one. Do we have the opportunity there to deregister him, pay him up, and potentially bring somebody else in? But I suppose, Karl, it's easy to suggest that when you're talking about somebody else's money, isn't it? And spending somebody else's money to pay him up and then bring somebody else in. And
it's going to get worse because of I read the other day where the average Super League player gets 85,000 a year. The average NRL player gets 225,000, and the salary caps going higher next year in the NRL. So they're not going to get players over here. I mean, they either come for the money. A lot say they come for the money. They come for the last payday because most of them have finished. But they don't have to come. If they can get 3 times as much as what you're getting here, would you go? Would you drag your family 13,000 miles around the world? There's only one reason to come. They come because they want to play Super League and they want to make a name for themselves. If you can get them, that's the younger one. But the thing is, what they've got to do to get a work permit. It's not like soccer. They seem to get work permits easy. You've got to have either played international, I think. I don't know the full protocol, but I know it's a bit strict, you know. And they aren't going to get players.
Yeah, and Rob Crossland's watching on YouTube, so I'm sure he can let us know how easy it is to pay up a player and let him go and stuff. But for me, Karl, it's time to draw a line in the sand now with Brad Takarangi. If the money's there and can pay him up, I think it's just a saga that needs putting an end to now. Obviously, he can't contribute to us on the pitch. I don't know what he contributes off the pitch. The thing is, he's still got 300 hours community service to do.
He can't go home yet. He's got 300 hours to do.
So he's going to be sticking around for a while, Karl. But it's just a sorry saga, isn't it? And where does he rank in your worst signings from overseas?
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much on the matter because I've said enough about him. Do you know the most frustrating thing for me? I don't know the bloke. I've watched him on telly over the years. He was a decent player at Parramatta, and there's something in there that needs dragging out of him. But he hasn't done it for Rovers, you know. And it's one of them, innit? You can have your opinion all day long on it, but really, let's just, like you say, let's turn over into the page and
it's a cross between
all the best in the future type of thing. So,
and it's a cross between, is it worse than Campese or Willie Mason?
Yeah,
for wasting money.
I think.
If you listen to Heritage Cast with 𝗔𝗵𝗿𝗄𝐿𝐻, there was a lot of factors into why 𝗔𝗵𝗿𝗄𝐿𝐻 didn't perform as well as he might have wanted to do at Rovers. And obviously, Willie Mason was brought in at a difficult situation, wasn't he? Rob Crossland, he has commented and he's put, you can of course pay them off and there is a saving potentially in tax for a player, but it still hits cash flow. That said, he will free up salary for next season. So I guess the rumour mill's in full swing, isn't it, at the moment, with players coming in, potentially leaving and coming next season. Whether there's any business to be done this season remains to be seen, or whether Tony Smith is happy to go with what he's got. If we have an update on the injuries, we've already mentioned Dean Hadley. He went off. Really bad tackle that on him, wasn't it? That crusher style. And hopefully the injury's not that serious. The club are saying they're monitoring, and it's hopeful that he'll be in the squad tomorrow when it's announced at lunchtime. Will Dagger did pull up last week with a knee complaint, but he's pushing to partner Rowan Milnes in the halves on Saturday, so it looks like he's recovering well. 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗀𝗲, of course, is going to be back after overcoming an ankle sprain. Originally, he was supposed to be out for 5 to 6 weeks, I think, but he's made a rapid recovery. And Frankie Holton is back to full fitness, and it looks like he'll be lining up for the Robins on Saturday. Hopefully, he will be named in the squad tomorrow. John Abdul's undergone surgery, so he's beginning his rehabilitation. 𝐁𝐮𝐝𝐿𝐻 is set to have surgery on his ruptured bicep next week. Sam Woods is recovering well from his dislocated patella. And although it wasn't included on the official club update on injuries, I did see a tweet from Tom Garrett a couple of days ago. I think it was yesterday. Somebody asked him how he is, and basically he said he's got a specialist. I think he's seen them either today or tomorrow. But the good news is it's not thought to be related to concussion, his injury. So it looks like that he's going to be on the road to recovery, and we're going to see him in a Rovers shirt again. So all our best wishes to Tom, because he was starting to perform pretty well for Rovers, wasn't he, Joe?
Yeah, I thought he was thought it took a couple of games to get going, but once he did, I thought he was a real handful. And I think that started for me, that Salford game. He really took it to their pack, and I think he just got better and better. And I personally think he's been a massive loss, to be fair. I think
I agree with you.
if he can kind of offset the loss of like 𝗵𝗿𝗍𝗍, because obviously he's been in and out, and so a big forward like that, I'd give George King and Matty Staunton a bit of a helping hand, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And before we go on to the Catalan game this Saturday, congratulations to Hull Kingston Rovers women's side, who defeated Hull FC 18-14 in the first ever women's derby. I think there was around 500 people there. The result means that Rovers go through to the semi-finals of the League Cup. And of course, they are back in action on Saturday against Salford. Their game follows Rovers versus Catalan. So if the weather's nice and you fancy watching a bit more Rugby League, I urge you to stick around and watch that game. It'd be great to get someone from the women's side. I've tried to get someone on just to talk to them about how they're doing this season, obviously reflect on their victory. Mason Kendall with the last try in the very last second of the game against Hull FC to secure it in golden points. So fantastic result for them. Disappointingly, there's no match report on the Rovers website, so you can't read about it, although they do have highlights on Rovers TV if you want to. I think they've got the full game, so if you want to go and catch that. So a great result for them. And of course, we move on to Saturday's game against the Catalan Dragons, which is the first game the first time that Rovers will have been on Channel 4. It's a 12:30 kickoff, and Rovers are going into that game desperate for a result. Obviously, 32 loss against Castleford last time out. We lost it to Huddersfield in semi-finals. Then we lost 12-0 against Leeds. And our last victory was on the 23rd of April against Wakefield when we put 32 points past them. Catalan Dragons, on the other hand, they beat Warrington 40 points to 8 last time out. The game before that, they beat Castleford 44 points to 12. And then they suffered a loss to Hull FC 14 points to 8 back at the end of April. Joe, I'll come to you first. Is this a game where Rovers can turn it round, or is it a daunting prospect?
Daunting prospect. You just got to look at their last 2 results and our last 3 results, haven't you? And think they've posted 40 points on Warrington and was it 44 on Castleford and conceded 20 over them 2 games. We can't find a try. We can't. It's just. I think it's just a. If they turn up on Saturday, I think we're in for a long day. To be honest with you.
Yeah,
especially with their forward pack and how easy we are to roll up at the minute. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned the forward pack, of course. Dan, we've got Frankie Holton, who's coming back. Louis Johnson, who's fit again, and he played against Castleford. Albert Vete is coming back into the reckoning. So there's definitely some competition for places in them forwards now, isn't there? And, we might have looked a little bit light before, but now with a few players come back. And, of course, 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗁𝗱 looking like he'll be back in the side, are we? Should we be a bit more confident now?
Possibly. It's one of them, isn't it? It's probably one of the better games to get a few forwards back for, because they are probably one of the biggest sides in Super League. It's good that 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗁𝗱 is obviously back. He's going to be a massive help. It just takes the pressure off Parcell and Lytton, really, when he's back. It just gives us that other option. You saw in the semi-final when it started to go wrong. He brought Lytton on with Parcell, and it didn't work, and we didn't have anything else. But yeah, I think it is a bit of a daunting prospect, the Catalans game. I think if we can keep up with them and hold our own, any improvement on the last 3 games is welcome.
Yeah, and Karl, interestingly, it was 6-6 at half times when Catalan took on Warrington last time out. They went on to score 40 points, a blistering spell in the second half, and Catalan looked like they could blow away any team when they get on form. I know Warrington haven't been particularly great, but you only have to look at like the likes of Sam Tonkins. When he's on form, he's enough to win a game on his own, isn't he?
Yeah, most definitely. He's probably the most accomplished fullback in the competition, isn't he? So, but no, I think if Rovers get a few forwards back, pal, I think they can give him a game. And I don't like all this negativity, to be honest. I think the only way is up, isn't it? We can't play much worse, can we? So, I think if we get a few forwards back, get an early try, get that East Stand roaring behind us. Why not? Why can't we give them a game? Why not?
Keith, is key to the game a good start? Because we've seen, haven't we? We've already mentioned that when Rovers start badly, it gets pretty much goes from bad to worse, doesn't it, at the moment? So, how crucial is that start to the game?
It's always crucial to get a good start, right? But to listen to you, they might as well not bother playing. Might as well just stop in the bar and let everybody have a free drink.
You'll give us a reason to be confident, Keith.
Because you're going out there to win.
So what's going to be different on Saturday compared to the last 3 games?
Well, they've got 2 or 3 forwards back. 2 or 3. We've got to run them about. We've got to move them about. They are a big pack. But I've noticed that teams that run at them and make them run about, get it wider, spread them. But if you go up the middle, they'll just cut you to shreds. And our defence has got to be better. But I honestly, I don't know. If the players have got the same mental attitude as what you lot blokes are talking about, they might as well not play. But people don't think like that. When you're going out to play, you're expecting...
You're not just listening to what I've said?
Yeah, what?
I'm not just listening to the positivity I've just given.
Yeah. But...
right, okay.
Of course they can win it, I never, not once in 15 years did I never not think we weren't going to win. And I played with the teams at the bottom of the league and teams and when Rovers was when Rovers finished in the top 16 and they had a pack of internationals. But of course you can think you can win. But you've got to do it, as they haven't been doing. That's the difference. And they've got players back. All what we've talked about is the reason is that they've had players missing and they haven't got such a good squad, a strong squad. Beginning of the year, the defence was brilliant, you know, but the tacklers was missing. You've just got to do it. You just got to go out there. It's in here, and it's down to the coach to bullet, drum it into them. I don't know how he talks to players. It is beyond me. He's been here since 2019, and I did something the other day. We've lost 66% of the games he's been coaching. Now, if that's good coaching, well, I don't know. But no, I think if they get their heads right, I don't know whether he should go right and let 𝗔𝗰𝗿𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐻 take over. Whether it's him, I'm not saying putting a bad influence on him, but there's something wrong. It's gone backwards since he made his announcement that he's going. And all right, it coincides with a lot of players being injured, a lot of changes, and it's all gone into one globe, hasn't it? And the garbage has come out at the other end of it. But we've got to start thinking just positive, haven't we?
Yeah, and obviously, Joe, there's going to be an enforced change. We saw Brad Takarangi having to line up against Castleford on the back of a Jordan Abdul injury. Obviously, Takarangi is now injured. Is Will Dagger the automatic replacement for him, or can you see someone else coming in for him?
No, I think it's pretty much nailed on that Dagger's going to be the man, and I think he's another one that can just provide a spark with a bit of pace, out of nothing. So why not let Rowan Milnes do the organising and let Dagger play off the back of him, just as Mikey Lewis would, just a little bit of spark from somewhere. And I think he could do that. The only other option really is 𝗔𝗰𝗰𝗿𝗀, and I know Tony Smith said a few times he thinks he could play 7, but him and Parcell work too good together when they're spelling it at 9. So I think Will Dagger's the only option for me personally. Yeah,
Dan, do you agree? Because we seem to be a bit short of options there now, don't we?
Yeah, I think limited options again. Dagger did play scrum half, I think, remembers it, Wigan at home a few seasons ago. He had a game of his life at scrum half, so why not?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I've gone for a predicted lineup of Lachlan Coote at fullback, keeping with Ethan Ryan and Ben Crooks out on the right, 𝐁𝐮𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐻 and Ryan Hall on the left, with Dagger partnering Milnes, starting with Matty Staunton and George King at prop, with Parcell starting hooker, then Louis Johnson and Frankie Holton in the second row with 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗄𝐿. And then with a bench, you've potentially got 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗔𝗰𝗏𝗏, Corbin Sims, Jimmy Kinehorse, Dean Hadley, if he comes through unscathed. Karl, who misses out on the bench for you?
Who knows, mate? Who knows? You've asked me this in previous podcasts, and I can't pick teams now. I'm not even going to bother trying, because even when you've got a fully fit team, they'll put somebody in who hasn't played for weeks. So it's pointless. It's pointless guessing, isn't it?
Well, here's one for you, Karl. Mr. Hull Rockers, he's put Coote has played standoff in the NRL. Could we see that happening, and maybe Will Dagger going to full back? Would that be an easy choice there, Joe? Or do you think it's got to be Dagger?
I think it's got to be Dagger. I think the way Lachlan Coote comes into the line out the back, I just think just leave him there. You start. I don't know. I haven't been. Dagger at fullback, I think he's an able replacement to Coote, but he just don't. I don't know. There's something about Coote, the way he charms into the line, and he's just got that pass or that little grubber kick through, that bit of class. And I think that's just that finishing touches what Dagger's missing as a fullback. I think as an half, just give it to Dagger. Don't stop messing about with it. Yeah.
And that's right, isn't it? I mean, Keith said about being confident. Karl said about being confident. And, if you include a team, if you get Lachlan Coote in the team, Rowan Milnes, Will Dagger, Matty Parcell, 𝗔𝗰𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏, there's a sort of attacking threat there, isn't there? But obviously, for me, Dan, Rovers need to lay a platform, don't they? And key to it is going to be them forwards. And I think for me, I'd go big on the bench with 𝗔𝗰𝗵𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 you know, when you look at Catalan, you know, they're bringing on 𝗔𝗰𝗰𝗍𝗫, Dodgy, Cassiano. You know, they're able replacements, aren't they? So as much as we might not want to play down the middle, we need to at least try and compete with them.
Yeah, because end of the day, they're gonna bring the game down the middle, aren't they? If that's their strength, that's what they're gonna play to. You just can't get into. They try and bully teams to Catalan, so we just can't get into that scrap in the middle. I think, well, I know Saints different kettle of fish to us, but you saw Saints in the first game of the season. Catalan's turned up to try and bully them. Saints just played around them, and it worked. They couldn't handle them. I think that's what we need to do: play to our strengths, which is in the backs.
Yeah,
rather than try and beat them up the middle, which is where contain them up the middle, beat them out wide.
Yeah, and that's it. We want to see more attacking threat, don't we? We want to see 𝐁𝐮𝐭𝐨𝐿. We want to see Ryan Hall getting the ball 20 metres out, 10 metres out from their try line, because that's where they make things happen. And we saw it when 𝓡𝓸𝓫𝗄 goes into the line. You know, we are a really good attacking threat there. And if we can get Ben Crooks or maybe Ethan Ryan released out on the wide, on the right, you know, we have got attacking threats. But for me, I think them first 10 minutes are going to be so crucial for Rovers, because you know, I can see a scenario where if we're 12-0 down, you know, it's game over. But I think if Rovers can get 12 points up, or we can get some early scores on the board, I can see a different game for Rovers, especially if the crowd's behind them. We've got decent weather. So I'm thinking I'm a bit more positive about Saturday now. And I'm willing to give Tony Smith the benefit of the doubt. I think he's earned that right. I know Keith might disagree, but I think he's earned that right to do that. But it's an interesting point you make about Danny Maguire, Keith. I suppose the conundrum with that is, Karl, is that Danny Maguire might not want to take over from Tony Smith till the end of the season, because he might be quite happy being assistant, and if Tony Smith's his pal, and he don't want to rock the apple cart. You know, I think there's a lot of fans are just assuming, aren't they, that Danny Maguire is the natural fit to take over from him in an interim period if Tony Smith did leave.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, because there's a lot of things going on in the house that nobody knows. So we can all sit here and say this should happen, that should happen, he should go, he shouldn't go. For all you know, Magdy might want to take it over, and let's be honest. Him leaving at this stage of the season, what difference is going to make? He's still going to have them players out. You know, he's still going to have that lack of confidence at the moment. The only thing that would happen is you might get Magsy making a team talk before the game and hopefully G the lads up. But it's on the press, so any ridiculous changes like that for me, in my opinion, it's not needed at the minute. It's not his fault solely we're in this position.
No, and it's not. And just to put to bed, I suppose one of the rumours that was flying around, wasn't it? Was that whether Tony Smith actually wanted to play Brad Takarangi, or whether it was the club who was saying don't play him. But in his comments when he talks about Brad Takarangi's injury, he said it's a strong possibility that he's played his last game for the club. I'm not the man for that, but I'd imagine so with what's happened and the length of layoff. Yeah, it's really disappointing. I'm gutted for him. This season is done. Like I just said, I'm really frustrated that's the way he will end this season after coming back. That doesn't sound like somebody who's happy to see the back of him, does it, Joe?
No, not really. I think there's been plenty of rumours flying about, haven't they, regarding whether Brad Takarangi is part of the falling out between him and Tony Smith and Lakin or whatever. Like you said earlier, I think it's time to just let it go now. You know, it's done. It's done. It hasn't worked out for whatever reason. So we just move on. He moves on. I seen. I don't know if it was something on the forum the other day that apparently is if Rovers don't offer him a deal, he's got a 1-year deal on the table from Hull FC. Whether that's true or not, I don't bloody know. But welcome to him for me. But yeah, I think it's just time to just let it go.
Yeah, definitely. And Dan, if I come to you, we're almost halfway through the season. We're currently in 7th place. We're 8 points off the top spot. We're also 8 points off bottom spot. Is this where you expected Rovers to be come this point of the season?
Yeah, around and about. Last year, it was a bit of a funny year, wasn't it, with COVID and whatnot. I think we were quite fortunate with how our fixtures landed to finish where we did, but can only play what's in front of you. if somebody has said at this stage of the season, this is where you'd have been Challenge Cup semi-final, just outside playoffs, you'd have probably gone, yeah, I'd take that at this stage of the season. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near relegation. I think we will turn it around this season. It's a bad patch. Every club goes through them. But yeah, I think the playoffs is still within our reach. The other clubs are going to have bad patches as well, aren't they? They're going to pick up injuries. They're going to have bad patches. We've just got to put that run of games together.
Yeah, and Karl, it looks like that Catalan, St Helens and Wigan are probably going to be the three at the top, doesn't it? So does that leave Rovers with pretty much anything to play for up to fourth, doesn't it? Because we've seen that we're capable of stringing results together. I suppose at the moment we've seen that we're capable of putting a bad run together. But in reality, to be at this point of the season where we are, it's not all doom and gloom, is it? The season's not over, and I think a lot of Rovers fans probably need reminding that there's still a heck of a lot of rugby league to be played.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? We won them 6 games on the bounce. Everything was fine and dandy, wasn't it? I mean, like we lost 3 in a row now, and it's like the world's ended. But in reality, you're only a couple of wins away from getting back on track, aren't you? So we've got to look at the positives. We've got to move forward. We've got to think about the bright things in the club and what's happening on and off the field. So, like Dan was just saying there, a couple of wins, together back to back. And it all changes round again, and these last 3 results have been forgotten about, hasn't there? So, yourself, it's rocks and diamonds with Rovers, isn't it? You just, you dust yourself down and you keep going and you keep going. Yeah,
and Rovers are going to be on the big stage on Saturday, of course, on Channel 4, 12:30 kick-off. Lots of stuff going on, Craven Street, etc. And it's probably the perfect opportunity, Keith, and it's to put a good performance in when the world's watching.
Yeah. To me, the main thing they've got to do is they talk about these game plans and structures, and you just play. The strength of your game plan should be based on the players you've got on the field. We saw it a lot when Campese was here. We tried to play the same moves that Campese used to do, the odd game he played, and I was expecting a player not as good as him to do what he did. You know what I mean? So you've got to play with your strength, and against I would start big. I would put Vetty and Mayer on first, right? That's what I would do. Start big.
Yeah, which is against what normally happens, isn't it? Because normally we start with King and Staunton, or we have seen Martin start recently, haven't we? But normally it's Staunton and King, isn't it?
I'd start with Mayer and Vetty. And if they want to, and bully, there's nothing Bully's way. Bully's dislike is being bullied. Now, whether Mayer and Betty's got it in the makeup, I don't know. But if I was coaching Rovers, I'd say go out there and batter them. Give them some hammer, right? I don't care if you get sin-binned, but make them know you're there, right?
Well, don't say that to Vetty, because you know what we've seen that before.
You've got to fight fire with fire, right? You don't have to get.
Yeah, but if Vetty does that and he gets frigging bent every time.
Yeah. Sims used to, didn't he? He was a kamikaze pilot when he first came, but he quieted himself down a bit. But bullies hate being bullied, so you get out there and bully them. Do to them as they're trying to do to you. And I tell you what, if they did that, then you bring this, and then get the ball wider. Start running onto the bleeding thing. That's so. I hope when this Willie Peters, when he comes, he gets players running onto the ball, because that really does. And I could say what I'm going to say, but. It just gets to me. They just stood flat when they get the ball. They get it and they don't know what they're going to do till they get it. Then they start looking for a gap. It's too late then. They're up to you. We're just too flat. Don't you agree? Or is this modern rugby?
I think you're right to a certain extent, Keith. I think there's definitely an element of us probably, like you said, the basics running onto the ball, etc. But I do think that's a symptom of probably players playing a lot of minutes and the intensity of the game taking its toll on us. And then I think some of the players are just making some really rash decisions, which are just putting us on the back foot.
They do all week. They play one game for 80 minutes. We used to do 80 minutes, 30 hours a week. And
you need to go give Tony Smith a knock on his door, Keith. Are you still barred from? He's barred still.
It's just common sense. I know I keep going on about it, but it just gets to me. It really does. This so-called modern rugby. And I think it's Willie Peters. I think he might make a difference. We'll see. I've had some comments back from people in Australia about him, and the majority of them was positive. That is, Newcastle are gutted that he's leaving, but they're pleased for him that he's got an head coach's job. He's one of the...
What do you make of the appointment, Joe? Because I've not spoken to you since Willie Peters was announced.
Well, to be fair, I don't really know much about him. I don't think anyone did, to be fair, did they, when he first got announced?
I think you speak for most Rovers fans there, Joe.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere, didn't he, the name? Yeah, we'll see, won't we? I think you've got to give him the chance to come over, and I think you judge him on the performances on the field, don't you, when he comes over next season?
Can I just say something? Oh, sorry, John.
Sorry, go on, Grief.
No, I got in touch with about 4 or 5 players. I won't name names because it's not fair on them. 2 or 3 of them played for Rovers. One said he said he used to play for South, was halfback. He's been assistant coach with some successful sides. He's highly rated as a smart footy brain, and he's reported to be a good bloke, which means a lot in the Aussie game. That's all I know. Newcastle apparently is sad to lose him, but happy to see him get head coach's job. Another one said, I haven't heard much about Willie of late. I can understand me getting out of Newcastle. There's a shambles here at the moment. Did some good work at South and West Tigers in the recruitment. Probably to go back to Super League and try and be a successful coach and retain like Brown and Price, etc. He seems a decent guy. Can he coach at an high level? That remains to be seen.
I think for me, Dan, that's the biggest worry, isn't it? That, you know, when you look at Willie Peters' track record and look what he's done, there's nothing to suggest that he's going to be a hit in Super League, is there? Because he's got no track record of coaching at the highest level, has he?
No. But you could say that about Holbrook when he went to Saints.
Yeah.
He didn't have that track record. Everybody, when they announced him, who's he? What's he going to do? And look what he did with Saints. I know, different set of players, but I mean, I was underwhelmed when it was announced. Don't know much about him, but you got to give the bloke a chance. It could go the 𝓓𝓸𝓫𝗿𝗏 way, where just a complete shambles, or it could turn out to be stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Well, that would get it now. I mean, he was an unknown, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And Karl as well. The positive, isn't it? Matty Parcell signing a new contract at Hull Kingston Rovers. Of course, he mentioned Willie Peters when the club announced that he was going to be staying at the club for a little bit longer, and it seems that Willie Peters might have been the man to convince him to stay at the club.
Yeah, well, they said, didn't they, on I think it was the BBC, that, you know, Parcell had a chat with Willie Peters and he told him what he wanted from him, and he wasn't going to change Parcell's personal game too much. So obviously it's convinced Parcell to stay. So that, you know, that's a tick in the box straight away, isn't it? And going back to the appointment, what I would say is we're all saying now we don't know much about him. True, we don't know a great deal about him, but you know, in my opinion, that is probably a good thing, because let's be honest, he's got a lot to prove now, hasn't he? Because he's an assistant coach at the Knights at the minute. You know, he's got a hell of a lot to prove, and you know, he's got to step up, hasn't he? So I've heard Sam Burgess talk well about him from his days at South. So why not give him a chance? Why not, you know, throw him in the mixer and see if he can cope? See if he can cope being a first, you know, an head coach. And also another key factor for me is, if we didn't get, it was always going to be an assistant, wasn't it? Because who else is available, really? You know, what top level, you know, first team coach is available? So for me, I think it's a good fit for them reasons I've just stated.
Yeah, and the club said, didn't they? I think Paul Lakin said there was a 4-man shortlist. Be interesting to see who the other 3 men were on there, wouldn't it? Whether any of them were.
I mean, it was a good scrum half. When we played for Wigan, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
it really was. It was quick. It was a bit like Rob Burrow, wasn't he?
Well, he's only 43,
he's only
isn't he?
Small fellow, Keith, isn't he?
Yeah.
You what, Jim? Jay?
No, so he was on. I've seen some highlights of him, and he's only a small, you know, nippy scrum half. So I think he'd bring that creative to the Rovers.
at least if it gets our halfbacks running like that and taking them on, that'll do me for a start.
Yeah. He retired from rugby league at the age, I think, of 25, and he's been coaching ever since. He's 43 now, so you'd say he's had a lot of experience of coaching, hasn't he? So maybe, the time is right. Maybe it's time for him to show what he can do, but obviously that's a long way down the line. Saturday is building up to be a very interesting game. Obviously, what we don't want to see, Joe, is us turned over on Channel 4, don't we? But we've seen on a number of occasions, apart from the Challenge Cup semi-final, that when Rovers need to, they can turn it on, especially at home. So, are you going into the game? You reckon we can do it, or are you still a bit nervous now? Are Keith and Karl, are they convinced you that Rovers might be able to do a number on Catalans?
No. Nah, I ain't going to be all doom and gloom. I think we'll be better than we have been. But I just think they'll be just too strong for us. And I think if we give a good performance, post a few points and prove to people that we can still attack, it ain't all gone. Tony Smith ain't told us to throw the ball into touch and do daft things. I think, I think we'll give them a go. But I just think they'll just be too strong for us, especially with us still having key players missing in key positions.
Yeah, Keith, I'm going to put you on the spot. What score do you reckon it'll be on Saturday?
I think Rovers can win it. I do, honestly.
By how many, though?
I don't think it'll be a big score. I think if Rovers can win it, it'll be about 18-10 or something like that. But if Catalan batter us, it's going to be another 40 points. That's how, as daft as it sounds. I still think if we play them in the right way, we can beat them.
Yeah, I suppose, Karl, that's the knife edge that Rovers are on at the moment, isn't it? What's your predictions for Saturday?
I don't. If I'm honest with you, I don't think it's about the result. I think it's about the performance and getting back to basics. And I think it's completing, getting up the right end of the field and creating opportunities, because we haven't been at the right end of the field in the last few games, have we? So for me, it's not all about the result. And obviously, I'm speaking with my heart here. I'm hoping Rovers will win, but I don't think they will realistically. But I'd like to think they'd give a good account of themselves and get back on the horse, so to speak.
Yeah, and Dan, you've had the longest to think about it. Are we at the point now where a good performance is good enough, or should we be, it's really about the 2 points now, isn't it? Especially after the run we've been on.
Yeah, I think given the run we've been on, I think the performance is more important. I think another defeat where we, God forbid, fail to score or only pick up a consolation try isn't good enough. I think if we can keep it close, I think, and score a few tries, I still think we'll get beat. I'm going to say by 6 or 8 points.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm surprised more's not being made of it. The battle of the fullbacks, 𝓡𝓏𝗏𝗏𝗏 versus Sam Tompkins. Season's gone by. That'd have been top billing, wouldn't it? But I reckon the result will be determined out of which of them two has a good game, and not with just ball in hand, but with kicking as well. I think Rovers are still, second or third in the table for most missed goals, and I think again that can come costly, and we've seen how lethal Sam Tompkins can be. So I reckon if we see a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 masterclass, I think we'll see a Rovers victory. And that brings us to the end of another entertaining Red Robin Podcast Weekly. As ever, a huge thank you to everyone who's tuned in live this evening and to everyone who's listening to us on the podcast right now. Thank you to Karl, Joe and Dan, and of course, Keith. Keith, before we sign off, do you want to just give us an update on the Heritage Trust and what's going on with them?
I can't, because I don't know that much, to be honest with you.
You killed me, Keith. Brilliant.
No, I can't. All I know is that it's the last Wednesday of every month, and I don't even know what's on. I spoke to Alex the other day, and I don't know.
Yeah, last Wednesday of the month. What time and where is it?
My last word, the thing was on our dressing room doors were on out of Maitland. Winning's not everything; it's the only thing. And if you can get that drummed into people's heads, that's what it's all about.
There you go. Rovers host the Catalan Dragons at Craven Park this Saturday with the Robins feature on Channel 4 for the very first time. If you're going to the game, then be loud and proud, and remember, live, love, laugh and be happy.